It's a Prius.
No, it's a hybrid.
They have a plug-in Prius, but we don't have a garage to plug it in.
My brother-in-law in Israel just got a electric.
Got a what? Electric car? Yeah, but you have to have somewhere to plug it in.
Yeah, he did. They arranged the as part of the deal. They arranged right by his parking spot
to put up
and,
thing.
To put a thing.
The Century Village is way behind. They should put in chargers. On the other hand,
that's part of the problem with the state of Florida, my friend. It's not just Century Village.
Well, also, you know that hospitalizations have shot up in Florida because the jerk is saying don't get COVID shot, don't get the flu shot.
Okay, I'm going to start learning sponsors as we get settled in. Okay, a year of learning. Friends of Malaskotsky, Moshe Zelig, Ben Mordechai, Martin Lippman and family in memory of his wife Malka Chana Bat Pinchas. Friends of Herb Jeremiah, Svi Ben Zev. Friends of Sam Coleman, Shmuel Ben Yaakov. Friends of Gideon Lazinski, Mordechai Shlomo Ben Meir. Bella and David Adler in memory of her father Eliyahu Ben Yosef Kohen. Those who were inspired by our Rebbetzin Emerita Sheila Shapiro, Sarah Esther Malka Bat Meshulam Yisachar. Gail and Leslie Kaplan in memory of their parents, Mushka Sprinza Bat Yosef Chaim Bechava, Chanan Ben Moshe Eliezer Bechana, Pesha Bat Shmoy Yitzchak Halevi V'Tzipora, Yisrael Ben Yoel Moshe HaKohen Bechana. Rexford Friends of Gladys Sherman, Gutta Bat Meir. Michael Klein and Friends of Judah Klein, Yehuda Tzvi Ben Chaim. Marsha Bronner in memory of her husband, Harav Yerachmiel Ben Shmuel. A Month of Learning by Reuven and Susan Podolsky in memory of his father, Tzvi Ben Pinchas. A Week of Learning by Ari and Judy Cohen in memory of his mother, Fega Bat Yechiel, and her mother, Hinda Bat Moshe Zechariah Halevi. Michael and Sharon Glass in memory of his father, Yitzchak Tzvi Ben Yichael Michal. Now, today is the, what? Today is the 20th. We have a day of learning by Chuck and Shelley Orgel in memory of his sister, Tzipora Bat Nosson Nata. And from the other day, did not make the last week's, so to speak, list. The 17th is a Hava Bam in memory of her stepmother-in-law, Ariella Malka Bat Abraham. And that one is covered already. Okay. May the Shembas have an Aliyah, Crank, or a field of Yeshua Shem Latliya, and the Chol B'nai Israel a good Gebenchtia.
I'll tell you something. Someone just sent me a text that outside the Tel Aviv Museum, a Shabbos table is set for 203 hostages kidnapped by Hamas in Gaza.
Yesterday, my brother-in-law sent out a video just to give us a little more chizuk and happy an occasion. Apparently, one of the younger men in his son's unit was supposed to get married. Okay, and they had to put off the wedding. Okay, put off the wedding because he got called up. Well, the guys in his unit decided you can't put off a chasana. So they arranged for not only the bride, but her parents, okay, and the food to be delivered to an unknown location near Gaza. And he sent us a video. Okay, here's this picture. Whoever took it was from in the back of the room. So all you could see is the back of her parents and the bride. And you see this whole unit of guys in fatigues coming in, okay, to this room, okay, and the guys and the guy comes in who's the groom, and whoever
And
is,
he's in his
he's in his fatigues
and
and
his
his
helmet.
everything for, camouflage and the helmet and everything. Okay. And the guys, as he walks in, the guys in the rest of the unit start singing. Okay. And, something very appropriate for a chasana. And,
That's very sweet.
you know,
That the halacha in newlywed is not supposed to be in the.
well,
Beautiful. I saw on TV.
yeah, they had it.
Beautiful.
The newlywed is not supposed to be the first year. He's not supposed to
I-
go to battle.
That's in when it's Torah country. Israel is a secular.
Okay. It depends on the situation. In a similar light, okay, Rabbi Brody's daughter, everybody knows Rabbi Brody from BRS, okay, was just called up. Okay. I'm not sure where she was assigned, but her new husband, relatively new, was called up a week ago. So what do you do? So the journalist says, what do you do the night before you're called up for to go into the army? You deliver pizza to your husband in his unit and everybody else in that unit.
Okay.
So
Sounds
she,
good. Did you see the thing from Reb Yonasan Eibishitz?
no,
Reb Yonasan Eibishitz.
send it to me.
I'll show
Just
to you
send it.
later. I don't know
Okay.
how to send it because I got it sent.
Is it
But I'll-
email?
No, it's a text, but I don't know how to forward it.
All right.
I'll show you the. He says that he wrote 350 years ago when boys and girls danced together.
Oh, yeah. Somebody
You
sent
saw
that to
that?
me. Somebody sent it to me, yeah. Okay. We got over to the top of Samachet Amud Aleph, right? All right, I just want to run back to get my head on straight. Okay, and then we'll continue. From the very bottom of Samach Zion Amud Beis, okay? El Amar Rabbi Yonas is Rabbi Yonah Vitema Rav Huna Bereda Rabbi Yehoshua. It's about 3 lines up from the bottom. Amar Kra, Kol Asher Yasem Mikol HaToivot Ha'ela V'Nichretu. Reciting the pasuk again, trying still to connect. Why is it that the Arda Arayot, okay, are identified, or I'm going to phrase it this way, are connected through a hekesh to achot isha as opposed to something else. Okay, so what happens? Hukshu kol ha'arayot kulam la'achot isha. Says why? Ma achot isha lo tafse b'kedushin. The same way that one cannot have a valid betrothal and marriage with the sister of one's wife, right? Af kol arayot kulam lo tafse b'kedushin. That was the point. Now, ihachi, if that's the case, says the Gemara. Now we go over to Samachet on the top. Afilu nida nami. Okay, let's also give the example of nida because nida is also connected.
It's a kares.
Okay, it's also similar, right? A kares, but also it's in among the psukim there in that section. It's included. Right. So why don't we make the hekesh to nida? The Gemara is really asking, as opposed to achot isha. Right. Okay, Alma, therefore, Amar Abaye, Hakol modim b'ba'al hana'ara. I'm sorry, Hakol, that's why I'm getting new glasses. Hakol modim b'ba'al hanida. Okay, that everyone agrees that one who has relations with a nida, what
His
happens?
own wife.
Okay, when she is right. Va'al hasota, okay, or a woman that maybe he's supposed to leave her, right? But if he has relations with her, she'ena vlad mamzer, that we say that the progeny is not considered a mamzer. Okay, Amar Chizkiah says Chizkiah, Amar Kra, we have a pasuk, utehi nidata alav. Okay, what does it mean that her status of nida is when she is upon him? Okay, all right. Afilu b'shat nidata tehei ba havayat. even though, okay, there's the status of that marital relationship is such that she is in a state of nida. Nevertheless, the Gemara tells us, Tehei ba havaya. It is still a valid marital relationship.
And he could even marry
Okay.
her when she's in need.
Right? So that's the point. It's right, which is not the case with Achot Isha, where we said it's low tough scene, where they married, it's not a valid marriage, of course, unless the wife's sister died. All right, so what happens? Okay, Michdi, since that's the case, Ika la'akushi l'nida. Maybe it would be possible to better to make the hekesh to nida, says the Gemara, right? Ve'ika la'kusha la'achot isha. We also have the possibility then to make our hekesh of the other arayot to achot isha. So why then the Gemara wants to clarify, do we, I don't want to put the word choose, but why is it the hekesh made to achot isha as opposed to nida?
It's not her case, these scenery, so it's already pre-made. Made previously. What do we? How can we change it? Say it shouldn't go this way. It should go
I'm
because
I'm
why did Moshe or Chazal, whoever, pick this rather than that? That's a legitimate question.
I'm not. That's Michael has a good point. Personally, I'm not prepared to say that that a
Hekesh has to, is a
hekesh has to
Masorah.
be handed.
Hekesh
That's what
has
I was going to
be
say.
Masorah.
It has to be a Masorah.
So it goes all the way back to Moshe.
Okay, well, yeah,
That's
but-
how it's a Masorah.
all right. But the implication is one has learned it from their Rebbe, who learned it from his Rebbe, and so on and so on. Okay, all right. So what happens? So why one as opposed to the other? My chizit the makeshet lahola achot isha. There's your question. All right, right from the Gemara. Why dafka to that? Okay, ekshel nida. I might have thought that I should make the hekesh since it's in the same section of the Torah, and it's a situation where you have the question of what the punishment is. Okay, what happens? Kula v'chumra. If you have a situation where you have a leniency and a stringency, the chumra makshinan, says the Gemara. So therefore we make the hekesh to the stringency. Why? Because it's an issue of Torah. And what do we say? Right? Safek deoraita l'chumra. Okay? That's how I would clarify it. Right? Now we're continuing. All right? Okay? So what happens? All right, we saw previously in the Gemara that both Chayve Beitin, okay, and Achot Isha, okay, there was such a commonality between them. Okay, so what happens? Rav Acha bar Yaakov Amar Atya b'kav v'chomer. So he wants to present an alternative explanation. Okay, all right. In other words, miyabama. So I'll learn it. He says from a kav v'chomer on a yabama situation, namely umayabama shehi balav. Okay, since we could say that the prohibition of, okay, with regards to Yavama is a lav, and the shiur I listened to presented it as a lav haba miklal aseh in that situation. Okay, lo tafse ba kiddushin. We say in that situation, okay, that the marriage is not.
She marries Charlie.
Okay, not valid, right? Chai ve mitot beitin. I'm reading into the text. Okay, v'chai ve kritut. In those two examples, lo kol shekain. How much more so, therefore? Okay, ihachi. If that's the case, shar chave live in nami. Then maybe we should make the same application to other examples in the Torah where it is a lav in terms of that situation. Okay, of course, then you'd get into the problem with Rabbi Akiva's view. Remember.
But he holds like that.
Okay, well, we're going to see that the Gemara is going to pick up on that in a moment. Amar Rav Papa, says Rav Papa, Chai ve'lavin behedya kativ baho. But with regards to Chai ve'lavin, those situations of, right? Okay, there it's written specifically. We learn it from can learn it from a pasuk. Okay, ki tiyena leish shtei nashim, ha'achat ahuva v'achat snua. If a man has two wives, one who is loved and one who is not loved. V'chi yesh snua lefnei hamakom, v'hava lefnei hamakom. Are we saying that the Kadosh Baruch Hu hates one and loves another woman? No, that's not the case. All right, ela rahuva, but rather when we say ahuva, ahuva b'nei b'nisueha. But rather when we say she is loved, preferred, okay? In other words, it's the kind of marriage, it's the kind of behavior that's a valid, kosher, strong, loving, connecting relationship in a marriage.
They're not talking about the love between the husband and the wife.
No, they're talking about God.
The initial question is loved or hated by whom? Okay, so would Hashem hate? Okay, or Hashem love particularly? No, we're talking about it's that whether Hashem loves or hate or is not satisfied, hates the kind of marriage, the kind of relationship, things like that.
Love marriage. Nevertheless, it's
All right.
called a valid marriage.
In other words, it could be a marriage that's tofsim, but it could be a situation where the Torah or some of the Chachamim would prefer that marriage not have taken place. Okay? Ela ahuva b'nisueha, snua b'nisueha. Okay?
Her marriage is
All right. Or the marriage is a marriage that could be tofsim, but was not favorable. V'ka'amar rachmana ki tiyena. But the Torah nevertheless says were to come into existence. Okay, which means because it's tihiyeh, it's like havaya, and therefore it means it is a marriage that is tofsi. Okay, ula Rabbi Akiva, and according to Rabbi Akiva, Da'amar ein kiddushin tofsin b'chai ve'lavin, who holds that such a marriage where there is a love of that kind is not a valid marriage. Ki tiyena b'mai moki. How then does he handle and interpret the pasuk of that situation? Ba'almana the Kohen Gadol. He uses it for the one exception that he holds that would be valid, even though there's a lav associated with it. Rabbi Simai, and also like the view of Rabbi Simai. Titania Rabbi Simai, who teaches, Omer min hakol haya Rabbi Akiva osem mamzer chutz me'almana lekohen gadol shaharei amra Torah lo yichalel. Okay, I'm going to pause there just for a second. Right, with the exception that Rabbi Simai points out that Rabbi Akiva does not hold that the progeny of a Kohen Gadol and Almanah is a mamzer. All right, why? Because
actually any Kohen,
right,
any love marriage associated with a Kohen.
Okay, lo yichalel chilulim oseh ve'ein oseh mamzerut. Okay, that it makes the progeny a halal, but it does not make them a mamzer. Okay, all right, we go on. Rabbi Yeshavav, and regarding Rabbi Yeshavav, Damar ba'u v'nitzaveach al Akiva ben Yosef, shaya omer kol she'en lo bri'ah b'Yisrael havlad mamzer. Okay, shall we yell at Akiva, saying whose view is such that any love of marriage, okay, is going to produce a mamzer. Hanechel Rav Yeshavav. That's understandable based on the view of Rabbi Yeshavav, who disagrees with Rabbi Akiva. Okay, Ila afuke mid Rabbi Simai Kaate, if it comes to exclude the view of Rabbi Simai, that's what Shapir, fine, okay, because Rabbi Simai Yeshobab is totally opposite Akiva. Rabbi Simai is sort of
Exactly the same.
in the intermediate
No,
position
it's
between Rabbi Akiva, not 100%. Okay, Ella itama denafshe kama, but if he's giving his own view, his own opinion, va'afilu chayve asay, and even in regards to those where there are an assay that prohibits that kind of marriage,
because
but,
he's only allowed to
right,
marry a virgin.
right, b'moi makimla, how does he explain the situation? Be'ula the Kohen Gadol, in a situation where the Kohen Gadol married a woman who was already a Be'ula and not a Betula, even though the Torah says it's preferable that he marry a
No, Torah requires.
Right.
Not
Okay. Umay shna. What's the difference? Okay. Mishum dahavi la'aseh. Why? Because there the prohibition is based on an aseh. She'ein shaveh b'kol. Okay, that it's not, doesn't apply in all situations. V'rabanan, and how do the rabbis understand this? Admuke la b'chayve lavin. Okay, that when they establish this in regards to the prohibition of the law, nokma b'chayve aseh. Let us also establish this and understand it, applying to those situations where there is an aseh, okay, that limits the marriage. Hani chayve aseh b'mayininhu. But these say statements that determine prohibitive marriages. Okay, what do we? How do we include them? How do we determine them? Ishtehen mitzriot. If we say, for example, in a previous case that the Gemara presented, if both of them are Egyptian, right? Shtehen snuot, then both of them would be inappropriate marriages. Echat mitzrit ve'echat Yisraeli. If one is an Egyptian and one is a Jew, shtei nashim me'am echad ba'inin. There we need a situation.
Still trying to reapproach the process.
Where the issue of two women, okay, our concern was really where the two women were of the same status, same background, okay, and not from two different backgrounds. Be'ula, the Kohen Gadol, and if we're talking about, you're saying that perhaps one of those wives that the Kohen Gadol married was already a non-Betula, okay, Mikativ, but wasn't it written Tiena le Kohen? Okay, that she shall be for a Kohen, which would seem to imply, again, that use of Tiyeh, implying Havaya, that it would be a Tofsin marriage. Rabbi Akiva, what about Rabbi Akiva's view? Baal Korchech, okay, right, against his will. Shavke Likra, all right, he broke the pasuk. Dahave dechik umoke anafshe, right? That he's saying that he was forced, okay, and established the pasuk, the understanding of the pasuk on his own. All right, let's go on. V'chol mi she'em la alav v'chul. All right, so we get now to a situation about a condition where at the end of the Mishnah, it talked about two women, okay, one was a Shifcha Knani, one was a Nachrit, where the question of establishing any kind of Kiddushin. In other words, they could not, neither of them are acceptable marriages to Jews. Okay? So what happens? So the Gemara asks initially, Shifcha Knanit Minala. Okay, how come our Mishnah, giving these two examples, presented the example of the Shifcha Knanit first? And why that? Amar Rav Huna, says Rav Huna Amar Kra. based on the pasuk. Shavu lechem po im hachamor. When Avram told the two young men, "You wait here with the donkey," am hadomeh lechamor. This is people that are similar to a donkey. Okay, I'm going to sort of put a different little spin on it in myself based on a previous Gemara where it said, okay, the question of Shifcha,
She was a behemoth.
that she was like, that was the Gemara, right? We saw she was a behemoth. In other words, she was like property to him, okay? And based on that,
Has no free will.
and therefore cannot make a decision on her own, okay? But were you to free her, the Gemara there told us, then she's got her own opinion and her own mindset. Yes,
The
Alan.
point is, she's a slave or that she's a client? Because I mean, we have a case of Eshes Yifas Tower where.
Ah,
No,
good
we'll
point.
get there. The
We're
Gemara
gonna
will
Gemara is gonna pick
So
up
what
on
we're
that
saying
too.
here is
Okay,
that
but
how
here
can you marry
She's
a donkey?
okay.
What's it? It's it's a living thing.
A
It
donkey
has no
can't
free
make
will.
donkey can't
And
make
a
an
woman has to
animal
accept.
right.
So
Can't
If you
make
have
a
slave
decision.
girl and you say I'm married.
Right, that's why I said property. Okay, if she's like property, okay,
She has no free will.
she has no free will. Same way an animal has no free will to make any sort. Okay, whereas what we're saying is she's got to agree. Okay. All right. So lechamor eshkachan delo tafse ba kedusha, and therefore I find there that it is not able to make a valid kiddushin. Right. So what happens there? And therefore our Mishnah taught us vlada kmota minalan. So what about the fact that we say that any progeny of hers is like her? What does that mean? The Amar Kra, because there we have a pasuk that tells us Ha'isha v'yiladeha tiyeh adoneha. Okay, that the woman and her progeny belong to the master. In other words, the children in that situation would likewise be considered servants. Okay, slaves. Right? Okay, fine. Now we get to the Nachrit. All right? Nachrit minalan. What about the Gentile woman? Amar Kra. Here also we have a pasuk. Lo titchatein bam. It says you cannot marry them. Ishkechana. Okay, delo tafse ba kiddusha. Here again I find that the marriage would not, betrothal and marriage would not be valid. Vlada kimota minala, but that her children, her progeny, should be like her, namely, whatever she is, the Nachrit, the children would be. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, Da Amar Kra, again based on a pasuk. Ki yasir et bincha me'acharai, that they would lead your progeny. I'm going to translate progeny here for a specific reason. Okay, astray. Bincha haba mi Yisraelit karui bincha. Okay, your progeny that comes from this Jewish woman would be considered your progeny. In other words, your grandson that we're talking about. Ve'ein bincha haba min ha'ovedet kochavim karui bincha. But your, again, in quotes, grandson that comes from an idol worshiper is not considered your progeny. It's her. Okay? Ella binah.
It's her kid.
It's her kid.
What about the Shvatim who were the sons of the
We're gonna get there. 2 more lines.
Okay. Good questions, Alan. Okay, that's fine. Okay, but we're all right. So what happens, right? So we're talking about basically the concern here is about a non-Jewish son-in-law that would cause the grandson.
No, a non-Jewish daughter-in-law.
No, we're going to, first of all, the Gemara is going to say it's very clear a non-Jewish daughter-in-law already, the child is, we're not raising that question because we've just said that child is not considered Jewish. Okay, so that's not the Gemara's question. The Gemara's question is about the non-Jewish son-in-law, that he may be the one to lead your Jewish grandson astray. That's the point, all right? Because it just said Ela B'na. So now we go on. Amar Ravina, says Ravina, Shma Mina. What we learn from this is Ravina, Ben Bitcha Haba Min Ha'oved Kochavim, the son of your daughter. Okay, in other words, a Jewish wife with a non-Jewish husband who comes from the Oved Kochavim. So that's the father. Okay, right? Karui Bincha. That grandson is considered Jewish and he's your progeny. Nema Kasava Ravina. Do we therefore consider that Ravina is of the following opinion? Oved Kochavim, right? Ve'eved haba al bat Yisrael. If a Gentile has relations or a servant has relations with a Jewish woman, Havlad Mamzer. Is that what Ravina's opinion is? Nehi to kasher loham. It's true that he may not be kasher, okay? In other words, really kasher is part of Kahal Hashem. Mamzer lohave, he would not, however, be considered a mamzer. Psul mikre, we would call him psul. Or the shiur I following was basically calls him Yisrael Pagum. Okay?
Flawed Jew.
Right. That would be the case. All right.
Israel Pagum is
Pagum, a flawed
a
Jew.
flawed Jew.
He
Okay.
has the yichus of a Jew because,
But he's not really Jewish.
because his mother's Jewish, but he's not in the kahal because he was not from any shevet. He's from a goy.
The
So
implication would be,
lacking being part of kahal.
well, the implication would be it would have certain ramifications were that person as to whom they were
He
really
could
appropriate to marry. Okay.
Why is he worse than a ger?
What?
Why would he be any worse than a ger?
He's
And a
he's
ger
not.
also-
A ger is 100% Jewish, but he's also not part of the kahal.
That's the same status.
So this kid follows his father's. It's complicated. If you want, I'll give you my Ramakomas for a whole long year.
Okay. Your son did a shear on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wednesday night.
Okay. That's interesting that he chose that topic. Okay, Hahu b'shiva goyim kativ. And isn't that written in regards to the 7 Canaanite nations? But
It's not
remember,
referring specifically to Canaan.
right?
But what about other goy?
Okay, but remember, we also have Torah mandated that in regards to the 7 Canaanite nations, we looked at the Rashi yesterday. I pointed that out to them, to everybody. We read the Rashi inside, actually.
Whoa.
Okay. I thought of you. Okay. What happens? Shar umot minalan. But what about other nations? Remember, we said it was Rashi who pointed out to us that we have to keep in mind that there could be a difference between the Sheva Canaanite nations, and I gave the example of Greek, okay, as one of the others. Right, but Greek, because in times of Chazal, that would have been an issue, okay, a Greek or Roman, okay? All right, so what happens? So says Shar Umot Alam Amar Kra, okay, Ki Yasir et Bincha, okay, he will lead your progeny astray. Larabot Kol HaMesirim, this includes any who might lead the progeny astray.
Which is everybody.
Okay. Ha nechel Rabbi Shimon. This is acceptable to Rabbi Shimon. The Darish Ta'ama Dekra. Okay. Who interprets the reason or the rationale of the pasuk. Right. Ella, the Rabbanan, my Tama. But regarding the rabbis, what is their view? How do they handle that? Amar Kra, they're going to give us a different example with a pasuk. Va'achar kach tavo eleha uva'alta v'gomer. Okay, citing another pasuk, namely, afterwards. This is here. Here's your Eshat Yafat Torah. Okay, this is where they bring that in. All right, at this point, right? Eshat Yafat Torah.
You're allowed to be with her, and she's not Jewish.
Okay, but what are the circumstances? Miklal de mi'ikara, says the Gemara. Initially, I'm going to use the instead of originally. Initially, before she goes through the whole process of cutting her hair and her nails and sitting, okay, mourning family, etc. Right? Mikara lo tafse ba kiddushin. There is not any valid kiddushin there. Ishkechan the lo tafse ba kiddushin. Okay, I would find then under that circumstance that there would not be valid kiddushin. Okay, vlada kimota minalan, and any progeny from her would therefore be under what? Amakra kitiena leish violdu lo. Okay, if the man has, that's havaya violdu lo, and gives birth right through her, right? But notice the pasuk is violdu lo, and it's born to him.
Meaning he's the father.
Okay, that acknowledging that he's the father.
Like an Yeshua Torah.
That's what we're talking about, right?
And
Right?
it's interesting, according to Tosfos, who said that he does have beer with her right up front at the battlefield. It's even more, it's stronger, because this child was born from him, and that was a permitted beer, but it's still not Jewish because she hasn't
gone through the process. Right. I wasn't going to bring Tosfot in here at this point, but that's okay. Kol hecha de Karinin Bay ki tihiena, because any place where the Torah uses the language of ki tihiena, what? Karinin Bay violdu lo. Right? In other words, where it says ki tihiena, which we tied into havaya, which implies Kiddushin, Bia, etc., and born to him. Because Hecha de lo Karinin Bay, Kitiena, in any place where we do not read Kitiena, implying that there's no Kiddushin there, lo Karinin Bay violdu lo. We don't read it and understand that it is born to him. Okay? And therefore we would go by based on the first statement in our Mishnah, by the father. Okay? Ihachi shifchanami. If that's the case, this should apply also to the shifcha. Ein hachinami, says the Gemara. There really is no difference. Ela ha'isha v'yiladeha tiyeh la'adoneha. But in regards to the shifcha, we have the pasuk that says that the woman and her progeny belong to the master. Okay? All right, I want to just go over a little bit more. Okay, Lamali, why is that the case? The Ketatanya, as was taught, Ha'omer the Shifchato, because in a situation where he might say to his bondwoman, his servant, Hare at bat chorin v'yiladech avad, avlad kimota, divrei Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Okay, that she could be free, but the children would remain as slaves or servants. That was the view of Rabbi Yossi Galili. The Chachamim Omrim, but the sages say Divarav Kayamim. Okay, that his words are to be valid, namely Mishum Shneamar Ha'isha V'Yiladeha Tiyela Adoneha Mahi Talmuda. What then do we learn from this? Amar Rava ad Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Okay, he says this refers to Rabbi Yossi Aglili's view. That's the case, but the rabbis don't hold from that and argue instead the woman children.
Rabbi Yossi clearly said the kid is free, so the star Shechror
has to be
re-enslaves him. In other words, she made a deal when he freed her that her kids would become slaves.
What about
That's
this case
right.
that Rav Moshe said before? If a man has beer with a woman in a battle,
Yeah.
before he
Takes her home.
she's the son
Before
is,
she
the son
goes
is not
through.
called, is not Jewish.
That's
Yeah.
correct,
Why?
because she's not Jewish.
She's not Jewish.
So anytime the woman is not Jewish, the child is not Jewish. Anytime, even if,
Oh, the woman.
and anytime the woman is Jewish,
Oh,
the child